I, 34 female, have been married to my husband for 10 years. We have 2 daughters together, a kindergartner and a preteen. I have a daughter from a high school relationship who's nearly an adult. My daughter's 7 months pregnant. The father's in her life. They're both working hard and saving money. I've already had the necessary talks with my daughter, but she's dead set on being a mother to this child. My sister-in-law, 35, has struggled with fertility and basically has been told that she cannot have children. They've been actively trying or just not using protection for the past 10 years and only conceived twice, ending in early losses. My mother-in-law already suggested letting my sister-in-law adopt this baby, and we told her my daughter's wishes. The other day, I came home from work, and my mother-in-law was over. I overheard her talking to my daughter about that idea, telling her how she wouldn't be fit to be a mother, and sister-in-law is much more prepared, and she wouldn't want to repeat the cycle because I had her so young. She then pulled a guilt trip and told her how sister-in-law's dream is for a child. I simply opened the door and said, "Get out." She stared at me in complete disbelief and then said I couldn't kick her out of her son's house. I said I can, and I just did. She left, but then when my husband got home from work, he said she had left a ton of messages about how I'm in the wrong and how I'm setting my daughter up for failure. My husband is on my side. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. While I cannot imagine the tough journey your sister-in-law's on as she navigates her fertility struggles, your daughter's circumstance is not a patch job for your sister-in-law's situation. There are tough conversations to be had when one is pregnant without planning it, regardless of age. Still, it was not your mother-in-law's place to have any of those conversations, and she didn't even approach it as a conversation. She was trying to manipulate your daughter emotionally. She deserved to get kicked out. She has no respect for boundaries or decency. Not to mention that the child's father also has a say, and it sounds like he wants to be involved. With the father actively present, they can try to bully OP's daughter, but they can't just force her boyfriend into giving up his child. Seriously, OP, have your husband give mother-in-law a stern lecture about not guilt-tripping his daughter and not shaming the poor girl. Also, not to mention that mother-in-law was at the house when OP and her husband were not to have this talk with OP's daughter, who is not mother-in-law's grandchild. I hope that she had treated her like a grandchild all these years, but this action makes me think differently. Even if your daughter eventually decides motherhood is not for her, she's not a broodmare for your in-laws. Letting a close family member adopt the baby is a horrible idea put forth by horribly selfish people. Good on you and your husband to have your daughter's back. Oh, good point. OP's daughter is from her previous relationship. It seems they'd have a battle on their hands. Food for thought. Could you or your husband touch base with sister-in-law to see if she knew what mother-in-law was doing? I hope she was unaware, but if she was not, it may necessitate a conversation with both mother-in-law and sister-in-law about boundaries and what is and is not their place in regard to your daughter's pregnancy. Although I also encourage you to check with your daughter to see if she's willing and comfortable to have you advocate on her behalf this way. I hope your mother-in-law is by herself in this insanity. Sister-in-law may be as much of a victim as anyone else, with mother-in-law acting as an unwanted agent. My 48 male daughter teen has gathered some followers on social media and started to get approached by some brands to promote their products. I don't know the first thing about this digital influencer culture, but I like that she's happy creating her content. We went through a family tragedy when my first wife passed away 3 years ago, and I believe the dedication to her channels had a significant positive impact on my daughter during a difficult time in her life. Anyway, whenever a company approaches her, I help the best way I can, going over the terms and conditions of contracts and so on. One thing that surprised me, though, is that some of those offers involve serious money. So I told my daughter from day one I would put it all away for her so she can access her money when she turns 18. I believe that as long as she's a minor, and unable to make more informed financial decisions. She should get by on her allowance, just as my other 2 children do. She was initially okay with this, but lately, she's asked me for more money. She pointed out that I allow my other daughter to keep and spend the earnings from her babysitting gig. It's a ridiculous comparison because a teen having some pocket money from babysitting as a complement to her allowance doesn't even compare to the money my other daughter's making now. But it's a fair point, and I gave her that. So I told her that we could use this as a reference. We could take an average of what her sister was earning with babysitting, or what her brother was earning flipping burgers in the fast food industry, or what most teenagers would realistically be expected to earn in this phase of life. I said I'd agree to take a similar amount from her earnings every month so she could complement her allowance, but the bulk of it would still be put away until she turns 18. She thought I wasn't taking her seriously to propose something like this. So was this an idiot move on my part? I'm leaning you are the idiot, but not because of money management. Your daughter makes a fair point. She earns more, and it stands to reason she should have access to more. You're treating her with a double standard. It seems weird to say. I think my daughter's mature enough to make adult decisions about her social media presence that could impact her future, but I don't think she's mature enough to manage money. If she's mature enough for one, she's mature enough for both. If she's not mature enough for one, is she mature enough for the other? This is a weird take. This is like child actors. They're clearly working in the adult world, but decent parents won't let them go wild with no oversight or control. How is this different? It's not a double standard. It's careful exposure to some grown-up places. OP is not the idiot, but there are some specifics we don't know, like exact amounts of money, so it's hard to advise. As a minor, she can't legally enter into a contract, so I have to be involved. I sign the papers and the money comes directly into my account. So yes, it's her money, and I never took a single penny out of it for my personal use or use towards our family. And the decision to put it away came not only as a measure to keep it safe, but also to keep her level-headed and grounded. I read that Emma Watson's parents gave her the same allowance they gave her brother, despite the fact she was earning millions while shooting the Potter movies. To clarify, my daughter's far from earning Harry Potter money, but I see this case as a positive example. Okay, why is it going into your account? Why not a savings account? Which would be smarter? Why not an account for her? And you saying she can only have the equivalent of babysitting money / flipping burger money is stupid. A percentage of the money she earns is better. Or put the money your son and daughter make into your account. You can get a savings account with a good interest rate for your daughter's money. Your daughter's right, it's not fair. Oh, and you're the one being taxed on the money? Your daughter needs a lawyer. Seriously, it's her money, and the more controlling you are, the more likely she'll just blow it once she's 18. I, 23 female, had been with my boyfriend for 10 months. It was his twin sister's wedding 3 weeks ago, and I was his +1. A lot of things went wrong on her wedding day. First, her makeup artist canceled. Their grandfather got into a car accident, and the bartender canceled. When the bartender withdrew, my boyfriend offered me to do it. I am a bartender as my full-time job. I wanted a break from work since this was my only day off for weeks, but I agreed with the bawling bride in front of me. My boyfriend told me that it was a well setup with a limited bar, but when we got back, it wasn't. I could tell it was an open bar, and yep, I was angry. I couldn't back out then, and I was swarmed all night. I was wearing a tight dress and strappy heels that were hard to take off, so I had to wear them all night. 6 straight hours of overly drunk people yelling at me. I'm not sure if they thought too much of an open bar, since many people got too intoxicated and had to leave early or were acting crazy. After that, my boyfriend's sister sent me a long text thanking me profusely, saying she was so happy I helped out so much and was grateful. I replied, "Thank you," and thought she would send a form of compensation, but nothing. I initially felt awkward asking, so I brought it up to my boyfriend, who looked confused. He said it was a favor. there was no compensation and that their parents had already paid the bartender a lot of money and they weren't getting a full refund, plus all the alcohol they bought for the open bar. It would be out of budget and inappropriate for me to ask them to pay me after the wedding already happened. He said his parents planned the wedding, not his sister, so it would be them who paid me, and that's not okay for me to do since they spent so much already, and that I was being an idiot even wanting to ask. I felt horrible, and I told my parents when I saw them over the weekend, and they told me that he was manipulating me and that I deserved to be paid for working 6 hours. My dad says boyfriend was the one to volunteer me in the first place and put me in an uncomfortable situation to say no to the bride right in front of me. My mom thinks they should give me half the refund they receive from the original bartender and add another half and to ask them myself directly. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your boyfriend manipulated you by volunteering your bartending services in front of the crying bride. Of course you said yes. You worked on your day off in a cocktail dress and heels while being berated by drunk guests. By not paying you, they, the bride, his parents, and your boyfriend, say your time and skills are worthless. Your parents are right. Your boyfriend is the idiot. Your dad is right about how your boyfriend manipulated you. The fact he called you an idiot for asking is reason enough to end it with him. How are they not getting a full refund for what they paid the person who didn't show up? LOL. They're lying. Or they got conned by giving someone money who never even stepped foot at the wedding. The only idiot here is your worthless boyfriend. My guess is there never was a bartender. The boyfriend told the parents not to worry about it and took advantage of OP. Why pay when you can get one for free? Please dump this guy. I'm sorry for your wasted hours of work, but in the greater scheme of things, it's a small price to pay to find out how awful your boyfriend is. I hosted Thanksgiving at my home this year. We have several lactose-intolerant family members, one of them being my son's husband. So I made some recipes using oil or olive oil butter over real butter or lactate milk so it would be safe. I made sure to put the dairy-free items apart from anything with regular milk and butter by having a separate small table for those dishes. My son-in-law ended up feeling very ill, and my son brought him to the ER that night. Even though I used safe ingredients, he still reacted to something unknown in the food. My son rang me up from the hospital, asking what was in the dishes at the dairy safe table. I told him I used oil, vegan butter, and lactose. He was upset with me because I put milk in the mashed potatoes. I told him again that I put lactate milk so it would be safe. My son-in-law is recovered and is doing well. My son, however, is quite upset with me and claims he cannot trust me to cook food for them again because I mislabeled the food. He's claiming he's told me many times about his husband's dairy allergy, and I agree, he has, which is why I made separate food. It is now to the point where the family doesn't want me to make any dairy-free dishes for Christmas because I am, quote, failing to understand. Instead, they agreed that my sister-in-law would make some of those dishes while my son and son-in-law would make the rest. I am beside myself because I love to cook for and feed my family. I feel I'm being displaced when what happened on Thanksgiving could have been caused by a reaction to anything. Edit, yes, they went to the ER just to be safe. My son-in-law developed a rash and upset stomach and used his EpiPen as a precaution. He was just observed and given an IV at the hospital and sent home in the morning. He didn't have an anaphylactic shock reaction to the food. I think some people here are very worried about the ER visit. He's doing very well now. Of course, we have talked about this issue. My son told me no dairy and provided me a list of foods to avoid and what to replace with. But I've been making lactose alternatives for years for my lactose allergic nephews, so I was already aware of how to accommodate a milk allergy. You are the idiot. Your son-in-law is not lactose intolerant. He is allergic to dairy. Lactose intolerance is an entirely different medical condition compared to dairy allergy. People allergic to dairy cannot have lactated milk or any dairy in any form. I can see that you tried your best to make something safe for your son-in-law, but it sounds like, without knowing, you made a mistake that could have resulted in your son-in-law's death. Also, you still don't understand the reason why the food you made for your son-in-law was not safe. So it's really for the best, for his safety, if you don't cook for him again. I'm sure you wouldn't want your son-in-law to become very ill or die from eating food you cooked. So I really hope you can come to terms with this and not feel like anyone's trying to displace you. Read some of her edits. She didn't try her best. The Sun gave her a list of dairy-free alternatives and explicitly told her to use no dairy, and then she put milk in the mashed potatoes. They told her that he's allergic to dairy products, not milk, and she put milk in the food. The guy she's trying to poison is an adult, her son's husband. Should we add homophobic to the list of adjectives that describe OP? Yeah, mate, I read this story and literally Googled whether lactate milk was safe for people with dairy allergies and learned it wasn't. Yet you'd think with all the effort OP put into describing how much she cares, she couldn't have Googled it? This is a just, no, mother-in-law sneaking in for validation. Update. I learned my mistake now. It was an honest confusion. Of course I've apologized and will again to my son-in-law. I'm not sure why anyone doubts that. They don't want me to pay for his EpiPen or hospital visit. All they want is for me not to prepare food for my son-in-law any longer, which I understand now. I feel horrible. I didn't look up the lactate, but I honestly thought it was safe. No, I didn't try to murder my son-in-law. I thought milk allergy was an allergic reaction to the lactose sugar in milk. Honestly, I do feel horrible. I didn't know there was a difference. I should only use vegan milk then and not lactose-safe milk in the future. I'm a stay-at-home mom to Elizabeth, a preschooler, and I have 2 nieces, toddlers, and 2 nephews, toddler and a preschooler, from my 3 siblings. They all live close to us. My siblings were having difficulty finding childcare for my nieces and nephews, and the topic of my watching them came up. I have all 4 of them, from 8:30 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. They each pay me $200 per kid per week, and they bring their own food. Elizabeth goes off to preschool in the mornings. We play at the house in the mornings, walk to Elizabeth's school at 11, play in the park next to the school for half an hour, come home and eat lunch, and then everyone naps from 12:30 to 2. We have 5 nap mats in the play area. Everyone has a mat, and everyone has a sleeping bag. We read a story, I turn off the lights, shut the blinds, turn on the lullaby music, and use that time to start cleaning up. Now, I have a rule. If you don't want to nap, you don't have to, but you don't get up and play. You sleep, read, or play quietly on your mat until 2. My older nephew's been pushing back on this. He gets up whenever I turn around and tries to be as loud as possible while on his mat. I told my brother and sister-in-law about this, and they said that he doesn't like naps and to let him play. I refused, because if they think they can choose between napping and playing, none of them will nap. Plus, he'll wake up the other kids. They're saying I'm being unfair by forcing him to stay on his mat for the entire 1.5 hours, and that it's not developmentally appropriate. I'm considering telling them to find someone else to watch him because of this. Am I the idiot for making them stay on their mats? Not the idiot. You're managing 5 kids under school age, and that is a lot. You likely need that time to be able to clean up after them, as you don't get that time to do so while they're up, as there are 5 of them. Every daycare and preschool that I've ever interacted with has the same rule. Nap time occurs every day at a set time, and the kids don't technically have to sleep, but do need to lay there quietly, or read or play quietly. You are right on the money that if they're given the choice, none of them will nap at all. If the parents don't like it, they can find other arrangements for their kid. I disagree. You are the idiot. That is a long nap for children that age. I'm surprised that those kids aren't bouncing off the walls when they're supposed to be going to bed. Expecting a child his age to stare at the ceiling for an hour and a half or be silent for that amount of time is unreasonable. He needs more stimulation than that. It is developmentally inappropriate. If you still need your hour and a half of free time, do this kid a favor and tell his parents you no longer want to watch their children. Please don't blame it on the kid. You're the one being unreasonable.